There was nothing really special about this case except the fact that 2 other PIs had worked the case prior to me, and no one had ever set eyes on the subject. When I got it, I first thought maybe the other PIs got burned, or maybe the guy just moved away. The provided address was a residential home in a quiet city neighborhood. After reviewing the reports from previous PIs, I noticed they had taken similar stationary positions as each other, so I decided to sit further away, almost 3 blocks, just in case the subject had seen them and was suspicious. I also discovered that the provided address might be his parents' address, so I had reason to believe even if he did not reside there, he may show up or they may lead me to him. Upon arrival, I observed 1 vehicle in the driveway. The vehicle did not match any vehicles I had for the subject or in any of the previous surveillance reports. After running the plates, I discovered it was not registered to the subject nor any known associates. After a couple of hours, I saw that vehicle backing out of the driveway onto the street. I knew I had to hurry as the car was going away from me and was a good distance away. I started my car, threw it into gear, and away I went. The chase was on, folks. Thankfully, there was a red light at the main road heading out of the neighborhood, so I was able to catch up to the vehicle. I could tell the driver matched the general description of the subject I was looking for, but then that's all I had was a brief general physical description. I followed him for about 30 minutes, then he arrived at a construction site. I was like, wow, how lucky is this? My subject worked construction, and this guy drove to a construction site. Could it be my guy? I got a ton of video that day, but there was still that question in my mind, was he the subject of my investigation, since that car was not registered to the subject or any known associates. I got some photos off of my camera and I sent them to the client. After about 3 hours and getting some really, really amazing video footage, the client called me back. I was so excited. I get on the phone and I'm like, well, is it him? Is it him? This video is sponsored by OREP Insurance and Working PI Magazine. OREP is a leading provider of private investigator liability insurance. Visit orep.org for a quote today. And then there was this long silence. Then my client says, no, John, that wasn't him. They have no idea who this guy is. So back to stationary surveillance at the residence I go. I finish my day with no further activity observed, and then I headed home. Day 2 rolls around and I go out again to the same address. This time I parked a little closer so I could see who gets in the vehicle. After a couple of hours, I see the same guy I saw on the previous day get into the car and head out the same time as before. I just let him go. No reason to follow him. He's probably just going to that same work site. After a couple more hours, I decided to go on foot surveillance to see what I could see. I walked past the residence and it appeared that somebody was inside the residence, but I couldn't tell who it was. I decided to do a pretext door knock using the old lost kitty guys. I pulled up a photo of a kitten on my phone and I went to the door and I knocked. Shortly after, a younger adult female subject answered the door. I get my story out about my lost kitten and I show her the photo and she says, nope, I haven't seen your kitten, sorry. As I approach my car, I get that terrible sinking feeling again. My subject is 20 and unmarried with no known children. Looks like another bad address. I call my client, let them know, and we decided to wrap it up and see if we can either confirm the address or find another good address for him. The client heard back from the insurance company. The subject had an upcoming doctor's appointment. This is absolutely great news. I can pick him up at the appointment and follow him home. Then we will have the address that we need. I show up a few days later at the doctor's appointment. I get a good position at the clinic and I set up a motion detection camera pointing right at the entrance door. This camera picks up everybody that's going in and coming out of the clinic. I then grab my covert camera. I go into the clinic to see if I can set up stationary position inside. As I go in, it is my lucky day. There's a large waiting room inside the door and multiple doctor's offices. I find a good place to sit and wait where I can watch that front door. And wait is what I did, folks. I waited, then I waited some more. His appointment was at 10. I got there about 9:30. I went inside about 9:40. There was no way I missed him. At about 11:30, I decided I had been sitting there too long and I reach out to the client. The client reaches out to the insurance company and we wait some more. Finally, the insurance company calls us back and says he was a no-show for the appointment. But they reached out to him and they rescheduled for the following week. Now, what happened the next week at the doctor's appointment was truly absolutely amazing. Another week goes by. I do the same thing, and guess what? Guess what? I dare you. Guess. Yep. I never see him again. This time the insurance company calls us back and says he went in early at 9 o'clock. So I must have just missed him by a few minutes when I arrived. No worries though. He has PT, physical therapy, set up now twice a week. So I get that schedule. First day of PT comes around, I show up early and I never see him go inside. But about 50 minutes before his scheduled PT, I see a guy who matches the description exiting the clinic. I grab some video and I see him walking around the far side of the building. I go to follow him. I get around the corner and he is nowhere to be found, but I did notice a pickup driving past me the opposite direction, and as I glanced over, I see the same guy in the passenger seat. I tried to get turned around and follow them, but they sped away far too fast. Okay, this case is getting to me now. How many times can I miss this guy? We sent the client some stills from the video and voila, it was our guy. So at least I had some good ID shots of him. The next PT day rolls around and the client has approved a second investigator. We do the same thing. This time, the second PI is out back watching. This time though, I see the guy getting dropped off about 30 minutes late by a taxi. He then goes inside, so we figure we have about 30 minutes to an hour. Not 5 minutes went by, and here he comes out, gets into a white pickup, and they take off. The chase is on. I throw my car into gear, and the other PI tries to get around as fast as he can safely. But he can't. There's too much foot traffic. I barely keep up with the pickup. Then it pulls onto a major 4-lane highway and heads out of town at a high rate of speed. I floor it and I try to keep up, but they are going 15 to 20 miles an hour over the speed limit. I follow at a distance, but I lose visual contact as they enter the next town. Seriously, I say to myself, how does this keep happening? After talking with the client, they decided to try one more time. But this time they tell us we don't care what it takes, just keep a good follow on him. Now this has me a bit nervous, folks. I hate speeding and I hate doing things dangerous, but we figure if we set up right, maybe one of us can get in front or an early tail to help the situation out just a little bit. We have no idea when he is going to show up, so we showed up very early. The guy shows up about an hour early and enters the clinic. About a half hour later, he comes out. This time, though, we saw a similar pickup come into the parking lot and park, but nobody got out of it. One of us kept an eye on him as the subject walks out. The pickup pulls up and the subject gets inside. We also had a car waiting at the main exit to start the tail right away. Okay, the chase is on. Here we go. 3 gators, 3 radios in hand. We followed and we followed and we followed some more. Then after about an hour, we see them pull into a wooded area out in the hills in the country. There was a lot of new development going on out there, so we decided to wait a few minutes and let them get to where they were going, and then we could go in and we could find them. It worked. We found the pickup and the subject, but there was no place to park without being seen. So we decided to walk in towards the new residence that they were working at through the woods. One of us stayed outside in case he left, while the other 2 went on foot. While they were on foot surveillance, they got a ton of video of him working on the roof throughout the day. About halfway through the day, we see the subject getting into a pickup with another guy. So, here we go again. Back on the road. The chase is on again. This time they head back towards the Denver area. We stick to them like glue. They are driving fast. They are driving slow. They're going fast. They're changing lanes. They're changing back. And well, you know, if you do a lot of surveillance, you know what's going on. They're trying to see if anybody is following them. It was the toughest, the most strenuous follow I have ever had, folks, but it ain't over yet. Now, we followed them for over an hour with this crazy pattern. We are not sure who is burned and who is not, but we figured they were suspicious of at least one of us. I had been on them a long time, both times, so we figured most likely I was burned. One of the PIs was staying way back most of the time in case they pulled off suddenly, so we figured he was the least likely to have been burned. After this hair-raising follow, we see them pull into a trailer court. We're familiar with this court, and we know it has only one way in and one way out. So the PI that we figured that was the least likely to have been burned set up a stationary position a few blocks away where he could watch to see if they left, while myself and the third PI set up to follow at a distance if they left again. Suddenly, we hear on the radio, "Here they come!" I'm like, "Which way?" Then he says, "Right toward me." I ask, "Is it the same pickup? Is it our guy?" He says, "I'm not sure. There's about 5 guys in it." I'm like, "What?" He says, "There are 2 guys inside and 3 guys in the bed." Wait, here comes another pickup with 5 or 6 guys in it. They're both heading straight toward me, blocking both lanes. I'm like, "Get out of there, get out of there, flip a U-turn and get on the highway. We will intercept." I then head out like a banshee trying to get to the highway where I told him to go. As I approach, I see the other gator with 2 pickups full of guys chasing him. I tell him to go in front of me. I slow down a bit. I let him get in front of me. Then I play obstacle in the road. I then gave the other PI instructions to head straight towards the local police department department and just pull in front and park. I and the third PI then sped away, and we catch up to him, and all three of us pull into the police department, and we see the pickups suddenly stop and turn around and leave as fast as they were chasing us. Later, I discovered these guys were all part of a very notorious gang. I am convinced they knew about us long before we knew about them. We were lucky that day. Fast thinking is what saved us. To this day, when a client asks me to do the ridiculous, my simple answer is you might not have the right guy for this job.